Episode 90. 1990 marked the start of the Human Genome Project. Cale Makar is the first defenseman since Paul Coffey to mark back-to-back 90-plus point seasons, and in an annual shareholder letter in 2013 to Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett eloquently outlined the effectiveness and simplicity of the 90-10 portfolio, 90% in a diversified low-cost ETF and 10% in short-term government bonds. Beyond MD, episode 90, here we go! Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Beyond MD. Guys, sorry about my voice in this intro. There's a bug running around and I'm hoping to knock this out before I develop any laryngitis. Now, you guys have probably heard me talk about in previous episodes the lessons that I learn from watching my boys Rohan and Zion in action. They keep me young, they are so genuine, and they, like most other kids, are masters at living in the moment. And I truly believe that we can live a happier life by watching kids and learning from them and adopting some of their practices. And then I came across some of the incredible work that one of our very own colleagues was doing. This is Dr. Hasan Merali. And Hasan is on a mission to educate people on how we can live a happier and more successful life by extracting lessons from young children, specifically toddlers. So Hasan Merali is an associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics at McMaster University and a pediatric emergency doctor at McMaster Children's Hospital in Hamilton. He received his medical degree from Harvard Medical School and Master of Public Health degree from Johns Hopkins University. His research focuses on child injury prevention in low and middle income countries. He's published more than 25 peer-reviewed journal articles, and his writing has been featured in Science, the Boston Globe, and Popular Science. And in 2024, Hasan published his first book, Sleep Well, Take Risks, and Squish the Peas, which is on the secrets from the science of toddlers for a happier and more successful way of life. And remarkably, Hasan also soon after that took part in a TEDx talk, and we also cover everything he learned from that experience. And towards the end of the interview, I really enjoyed picking Hasan's brain on how he finds more purpose in his work and how he gets so much done. So with that, please enjoy my conversation with Hasan Merali. Hasan, welcome to Beyond MD. We started our conversation a while back, managed to read your book, which was incredible. And it's just really great to connect with you in person. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm a longtime listener.
I really appreciate that, Hasan. So I really just want to get a snapshot of you. Maybe just start to talk to us a bit about your professional journey and what do you do today?
Yeah, it's kind of been a long journey. I'm originally from Northern Ontario. I'm from Sudbury. I spent my whole early years there until the end of high school. Really wanted to get out of Northern Ontario at that time in my life. And so I went to Columbia and moved to New York for undergrad. I was there for 4 years and with a lot of hard work and an incredible amount of luck, I got into Harvard Med School and so moved to Boston after New York. Spent 4 years there and then actually I majored in ophthalmology initially because I loved global health and I still practice a lot of global health. And I was so impressed by what ophthalmologists can do in global health. I only lasted about 6 months and then I just could not do another eye exam. It just wasn't for me. I knew it. And so I switched residencies into pediatrics, which I knew I always loved and wanted to do pediatric ophtho. And then stayed at Harvard, did 3 years of residency at Massachusetts General Hospital. And by that point, it had been 11 years. So I really wanted to come back and see how things were, both for the medical system and how it was living in Canada. So I did a pediatric emergency fellowship at Sick Kids and back to the US for a year of MPH at Johns Hopkins and then back to Sick Kids for a global health research fellowship. Yeah.
Okay. I already have so many questions. So I grew up in a smaller town, not as small as Sudbury, but in Kingston. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time there. And by the time I had wrapped up undergrad at Queen's, I kind of looked at my parents and I just told them, I was like, guys, I love you, but I need to go. I need to get out. So like for me, I moved as far away as possible. I actually went to Vancouver and I was just like, I really needed that. But Hasan, for me, I decided that at each leg of the journey, I wanted to expand the network, train somewhere new, work somewhere new. For me, that was very valuable. Can you just summarize for us? Like you moved around a lot. You probably met a lot of interesting people along the way. What did that do for your learning kind of beyond knowledge and books?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible experience to just work with different people all of the time. One of my best examples is I specifically went to Hopkins to train in injury prevention research, and I still work with them to this day. So I have an associate position there. And, those types of networks are long lasting, and that has really helped me, get more grants and publish more papers and hopefully help more children with injury prevention. And I think, working in multiple different cities, I work at McMaster now, really broadens your clinical perspective as well. And a lot of different tips and tricks along the way from different people you work with is always really helpful.
I also don't know too many people who switched out of ophthalmology to go into pediatrics, but from the work you're doing, Hasan, I can tell that you are really enjoying yourself. At least that's what it seems like to me. Can you tell us about the work that you're doing right now? Like helping people to live a more meaningful and a happier life by extracting lessons from toddlers. Like I feel like you've really uncovered something special here. I've never heard anybody else talk about it, so I think you're really onto something. But how did you stumble onto this? Like, was it through your residency? Was it more after you became a dad? Just curious, how did this all happen?
Yeah, it was more through my clinical work. I practice pediatric emergency medicine clinically, and I started residency about 15 years ago. So it's been that long of working with children. I've been very fortunate. And I've had all of these experiences throughout my career, especially working with little kids. And they're just so amazing to me, the way they interact with the world, the way they want to make other people laugh, the way they take risks. Yesterday I had an ER shift, and I'd say 25% of my patients were kids under 5 with either a laceration or a fracture. And it's just amazing to me about how they approach the world. And so I started to think about them more and look at some of the data around how they behave. And I've always been interested in wellness in general. And I found these amazing connections and how the way young children behave maps perfectly onto the adult wellness data about what we should be doing to live a better life. And so I want people to do two things, hopefully through my work. One is to really give toddlers and preschoolers the respect and admiration that they're due. They get a lot of negative names and a bad reputation with things like terrible twos and three-nager. And I think we need to completely get rid of these because they're actually masters in a lot of different domains. And the second thing is there's, I think, far too much information coming at us, to parents, to doctors, to everyone about what we should be doing with children and what we should be teaching them. And I really want to flip that script because they are such good teachers in a lot of different ways that I want to bring those to light for everyone.
I absolutely love that. And I can tell you, Hasan, that many, many years ago, I was at a family wedding and somebody there told me, they said, learn to live life through the eyes of your children. He said, and they said that the faster that you can do that, like the faster you're going to find lasting happiness. And for me, that statement, it didn't quite click with me, but then I became a dad back in 2014. So I can't believe it. My oldest, Rohan, is going to be 11 this year. And for me, it probably took me about 10 years to figure out like what that meant. And I can tell you over the years, I have learned so much just by watching them, and they've taught me a lot. So let's dive into this now, Hasan. Let's maybe start off by talking about how is the toddler brain different than the adult brain, and how is this possibly conducive to a more happy life?
Yeah, so one of the biggest differences, as you probably know, is they have a less developed prefrontal cortex. And so they're not great planners, and they're not thinking about what they're going to be doing next week at 11 a.m. on a Monday. And what that helps them do, though, is live in the moment, and something that we lose because we're thinking about the future and planning a lot. And so living in the moment is really special for them because they absorb a lot more of what's around them. They can ask a lot more questions without worrying about what other people are thinking or what they will think in the future. And they're really building relationships. And, toddlers really focus on two things: building relationships and learning. And that magical way of living in the moment and laughing and playing most of their time is really special, and something I hope some of us can get back to in some ways.
I totally agree with you. It was not long ago when I was enjoying reading a book with my younger son, Zion. He's 7 going on 8, but he still loves to cuddle. So, he took a warm bath and I read your book. And one of the first things you talked about was bedtime routines. And then it kind of struck me, Hasan, I was just like, we basically do all the things we shouldn't be doing before bed. We're like on our screens, doing everything that toddlers don't do. And so my son took a warm bath and I kind of looked at him. I was like, buddy, I'm going to take a hot shower. I'll meet you in bed. So I took the hot shower. I met him in bed. We cuddled. We read a book. And I had like the best sleep I've had in years, it felt like. So maybe just talk to us about that. Like some of the easy things that we can do, bedtime routines. What can we learn from toddlers in that respect?
Yeah, I know you absolutely nailed it right there. And the article that's been the most popular that I've written is about this bedtime routine and how we can apply it to our adult lives. And so number one, like you talked about, is getting off the screens, especially at least an hour or two before bedtime, having a set bedtime, and then really that 1 hour before taking a hot bath or shower. We know that we need a cooler body temperature to sleep. And so this peripheral dilation of our blood vessels really cools our core and will help us to get to sleep faster and sleep better. And then, toddlers love some type of relaxing activity, lotion, massage, anything like that. For us, that can translate into a hygiene activity, brushing your teeth, anything like that. And then really the ending of it, just like you said, is reading. There's so many benefits to reading. And I have a whole chapter in my book about reading, but reading before bedtime is so helpful because it's off the screen. It's a relaxing activity. We retain more of what we read if we do that before bed. And toddlers will push you. Like they want that bedtime story. My little one is 4 right now. She just asks again and again for more and negotiates for more reading. And it's very special. And that bedtime routine, if we can get that down just like they do, like you said, you're going to have great sleep. And I really consider that the foundation of wellness is really getting that good sleep first.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, on reading, I wanted to get your take on this because one thing I did for myself over Christmas was I bought myself a Kindle. And
Nice.
For me, this was just like a thing to kind of carry around.
Yep.
And that way I don't have to carry books around everywhere. Although I will continue to buy my favorite books. Are you more about reading proper paperbacks and hardcovers, or do you read on a screen too before bed? Like, what do you recommend there?
I just read paperback books because I'm used to that. I don't think there's any issues with reading on a Kindle, for example. I did go through the data on this, and as long as there's no like notifications or things like that, then you can get pretty much the same effects. If you're reading on your cell phone and you're still getting those notifications and emails and things like that, then that's an issue. But if it's a dedicated e-reader, I think that's fine. A lot of people now do audiobooks too. I think audiobooks can be equally as helpful too. They're especially good for nonfiction. You probably can't go as deep into reading because it's hard to go back and highlight and things like that where you're trying to retain the most information. So I do a mix of paperback when it's a book that I really want to know everything about and retain that. And then for all my other books, I have a 30-minute commute. I am just listening to audiobooks.
Love it. I love it. So let me move on to giving. Like toddlers, as you said in your book, they are very generous people. And I also like how you talked about it in your TED Talk, which we're going to get to. I think you said that toddlers love to eat crackers, and you'll often be the first one who they offer a cracker to, despite they're starving, they're hungry, it's been a long day. But toddlers give, and you mentioned that they also don't strategically give. They give just because they want to give and do good. And I think that this concept is important and also interesting for me because it also translates to some of the financial things that we talk about, especially in behavioral finance, because the research shows with finance, when we give, that can lead to not just a brief moment of happiness, but more lasting happiness. So, Hasan, I would love for you to kind of talk about giving. What can we learn from toddlers in this respect about giving and doing good?
So I'll start by saying, after diving into the data and working with them for 15 years, that there is nobody more kind than a toddler and preschooler. They are just at the top. They are just incredibly nice to people who have been selfish to them, who, when they're hungry, like you mentioned, when people have taken things from them, they're still just very kind people. And so the cracker study is interesting. So if you've been around a toddler, they absolutely love crackers. Goldfish are a favorite. It's like a very highly prized item, like a sticker to them. And they just love those things. And so there's this great study where toddlers have a little bowl of crackers and they have a little puppet friend, and they each have a little bowl of crackers. And the experimenter also gives them some crackers, and they're asked to share with the puppet. And so the toddlers can share the ones that were just given to them, or the ones that they had and that they own. And so they're happy to give. And they did a facial analysis where they're videotaping and looking at their smile. And so the ones that they own or that they had initially, they're happier to give. So they just get a lot of happiness from giving, and they get more happiness from giving their own things rather than things that are found. And so I thought that was a really special way to summarize how much happiness they get from it. And like you talk about, when we give, and the adult data is very clear on this. And so one adult study I'll just quickly mention, University of Chicago, adults are given a sum of money every day. Half the adults are just given the money and told to keep it. And the other half are told to give the money to whatever charity they want to. And the happiness fades in the people who get it over time, while it stays the same in the people who are giving. So like you mentioned, it's really important for us and gets to this higher level of happiness. So the way it's broken down is hedonic, which we know is subjective, in the moment, quick feelings of satisfaction or happiness we get. And then there's eudaimonic, which is self-actualization. If you remember Maslow's pyramid, it's the very top. And it really gets to who we are as people. And that's the type of happiness, longer lasting, that we can get with giving.
I love that. I love that summary. And I know you talked about this concept in the book too, like longer lasting happiness and the terminology you just shared. So Hasan, one thing I notice is, and with myself too, I know that at times, life gets busy, work gets busy. I even can tend to have a serious demeanor. I know that work can kind of take over sometimes, but toddlers are laughing all the time. And I think you mentioned some data in your book that the amount we smile, the amount we laugh, I think you mentioned it certainly starts to hit a downward trajectory in our 20s. It stays pretty low, and then later on in life it will pick up, but never to the extent that toddlers exhibit this type of behavior. So maybe can you share some data on this and maybe talk about why is it a good idea for us to maybe introduce a bit more of this into our lives, like some of the benefits, and then practically speaking, like in our chaotic days, like how do we go about this? How do we introduce more smiles, more laughter into our day to day?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, we go off this laughter cliff, like we do with reading and a lot of other things, where we start off very high, we go down, and then maybe in retirement, it starts to creep back up. And so when toddlers and preschoolers are left to themselves, they're laughing nearly 1 time a minute. And adults at most are about half of that. And so it's really incredible. And one of the reasons is, like I mentioned, they're really trying to build that relationship with other people. And they know that making that other person laugh is building a relationship. And so I think that can translate really well to adults. And one of the reasons we should be trying to laugh more, if we're making jokes with people and smiling with people, we have better relationships. And really great study I loved is that they had a group of people, this is adults, in a room. They had them watch a funny video or just a neutral video as a control, a nature video. And the people who watched the funny video were then asked to talk about themselves. They shared more information about themselves and more personal information. And it just helps us be more relaxed and get to a place where toddlers are at, where they're just always trying to make other people laugh and build stronger relationships. So I think there's a lot of practical ways we can do that. For me, it's dad jokes. I love dad jokes. Maybe you do too.
Yeah, I do too.
I have a good one for you. What do you call an angry carrot?
I feel like I should know this, and maybe I've heard it. I don't know.
Okay, this came to me today. A steamed veggie.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know what? I do a lot of dad jokes, and I impart a lot of life advice. I recently got feedback though from my oldest that maybe I'm giving a bit too much advice. He's like, take your foot off the gas a little bit, and I was just like, okay, once a week, Friday, can we do like Friday life advice? And he's like, sure, once a week. So that's kind of what we negotiated. But I love that. And Hasan, but in our day to day, are there any practical tips that you can share on how can we practice more laughter? Maybe it's as simple as engaging with our colleagues a bit more, making sure we step away from work, take those breaks. But any practical advice there?
Yeah, so I think there are things that we all find very funny. It's different for everybody. Some people have a favorite comedian. Some people have dad jokes. For me, it's toddler videos. And so I will spend my lunch break watching toddler videos. because I think they're very funny people and and they make me laugh a lot. And so I think just finding that thing that really makes you laugh and just trying to get it into your life. That could be following a Twitter or LinkedIn person that you really like, so you're getting that every day, or an email list like we used to do, but still exists if you want, to get that daily joke in, is really helpful. And then I have found more recently that I really love live comedy. And so I have made it a point to go more and see live comedy. I go to the Just for Laughs festival every year now. And so that's been one extra way to get more laughs in.
That's a really good idea. Now, I think you maybe mentioned that in your book too, or maybe I heard you write about this somehow. But speaking about the videos, I think that's a great idea. I know that just last week, my wife Seema had dug up all these old videos of our younger son, Zion, and she brought them up. And literally the four of us were just glued to these videos, and we all had smiles on our faces, right? Like it was just, and I think maybe you mentioned this in your book, but if we go back and kind of watch videos of either our kids or ourselves from back in the day when we were young, it can bring about positive emotions, right? Like this is a good practice to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up another really important point there. Not everyone is able to do this, to have access to work or play with little kids. But if you spend time with children, and they don't have to be super young, just any children, that is going to get you laughing more. Yeah. And my favorite example of this, for your listeners, if you could check this out on YouTube, it's a TV show called Old People's Home for 4-year-olds. Maybe we can link that in the show notes.
Yeah, sure,
and it is just 4-year-olds interacting in a senior's home with older people. And you can just see, they just walk in the room and everyone is laughing more. Everyone is smiling more.
Oh, so that's amazing.
They just bring that type of happiness to everyone around them. When I walk around the grocery store with my 4-year-old, I mean, it's mostly with seniors. She's just laughing and playing and smiling and waving at people. And they're very special in that way. So anything you can do to be around them, if you have niece, nephew, that will definitely bring you more smiles and laughter.
I love that. I think of all the videos you've shared on LinkedIn, I think one of my favorites was, you probably recall this, but there was this kid. He must have been like 4 years old. He was in this baseball game and trying to run from like third base to home plate. And he was kind of doing this like slow motion run. And then his dad comes like running onto the field being like, come on, buddy, let's pick it up. And he's just like, get away from me. He's like, let me do it. And I just couldn't believe it. I think I stopped. I laughed. Like kids are hilarious, as you say. That one really that stood out for me, that one. Kids are also very good at positive self-talk. I think of all the things you mentioned, apart from the bedtime routine, I think this is the other one that is just really easy to implement. And when I went through that chapter, I think the one on self-talk was probably my favorite. But what are ways in which talking to ourselves in a positive way can kind of enhance performance? And then I also want to go through how can positive self-talk help us to kind of overcome anxious moments as well. I'd love to dissect this with you.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of this came from, I wrote a lot of this book when my daughter was between age 1 and 2. So when she was a toddler. And it was interesting to go pick her up at daycare during those times. And it was winter. And I just remember walking down the hallway and these little kids are trying to get themselves ready. And Julie is so excited that she got her mitts on. And she says, I did it. And she says it out loud. And there's nobody around. And Colton is over here and he's looking down at his boots and he said, Colton did it wrong because his boots are on the wrong feet. And watching these videos too, you just see these little kids. And my favorite one is a little girl named Auburn Sage, who is a snowboarder, and her dad just put a mic on her and followed her down. And she's guiding herself down this hill about where to go, how to stop, everything. And so they're talking to themselves a lot out loud. It's called private speech. And it kind of fades away after age 5 and kind of we internalize it. But it's incredibly helpful for them. So if you give little kids a Lego model to build, you'll find that they talk to themselves, give themselves performance feedback, and give themselves a lot of encouragement about how good they're doing and how well they can do. And so I was looking at the data on how this can help adults. And so what we need to do is talk to ourselves in second or third person. That's really the key. And so anxiety, you were talking about anxious moments. One of my favorite studies is they put people in fMRI scanners and they showed them aversive images like a dog, like a mean dog baring their teeth, things like that. And they told them to say, what am I feeling? And feel that. Or what is in your name? So what is Hasan feeling right now? And the areas of emotional reactivity are actually far decreased when you talk to yourself in third person. So that is one of the ways that is super helpful to decrease our anxiety in the moment if we talk to ourselves in third person.
I absolutely love that. And after I read that in your book, I started to practice it with myself, and I will say it helped. It absolutely helped. Yeah.
Great.
So I have a couple questions around this, but I would love to know, of all of these things that we've talked about, and we've just kind of scratched the iceberg here. I know Hasan has a lot more in his book, but what is your favorite toddler practice that you have implemented in your life?
Yeah, I'd say my favorite one is play. And this really gets to things that we've kind of lost along the way when we were kids. And I was inspired by some of the studies that were done about thinking about yourself as a child. And it's so easy for us to do that and think of the activities that we used to love to do. And as I was doing this and writing this book, I really remembered drumming. First as like a little kid, and then more advanced as I got older and had a drum set growing up too. And so I went and I signed up for a hand drumming class at the RPG, the botanical gardens here that they run it. And my parents are from East Africa. They have a large collection of hand drums. And so I got those, got my daughter involved, started taking lessons, and I'm doing this. And it's something that, brings back a lot of childhood memories. It feels really good. It doesn't really have a point to it. It's completely unstructured. I'm learning, and it's just fun to do that with my daughter right now and with other people as well, as we have drumming circles. And something I never thought about doing in my busy life, but it's really been a nice takeaway for me to get back to some of those things that I used to love.
Maybe we can take this and segue over to the book that you wrote. I was really impressed by it. I really enjoyed reading it. And so for people who want to dive into it, I encourage you to read it. So Sleep Well, Take Risks, Squish the Peas. So this is a book that Hasan wrote on all these topics that we're talking about and more. Hasan, I really want to ask you, it's no easy feat to write a book. First, maybe tell us, why did you choose to write a book? Take us through that thought process. Is this something that you felt like you always wanted to do, or did it kind of come at you more later in life? Tell us about why you decided to do it.
Yeah, I think it came slowly over time. It was always, like I was saying, I was learning about the kids, and I was mapping the wellness in my mind and reading different studies and looking at what's out there. It was really this one-way street of adults teaching children, and I really wanted to showcase that. And so the book idea was always in the back of my head, and I never had time to do it. And just something very lucky happened in a lot of ways. We had a daughter in 2020, and I took a pat leave between age 6 months to 12 months with her. And my wife works in a hospital, so she was back to work. And it was pandemic year, and so there was nothing to do. No one was visiting. There was no activities for us to do.
Yeah.
So it was just me and her at home, and it was the best period of my life. And she took a nap every day, 2 naps, one in the morning for an hour, one in the afternoon for an hour. And I had no email. I had no work. It was a perfect time. And so I said, if I don't do it now, it's not going to happen. And I was coming up to 40. I'm like, I want to do this before age 40. And so every day for 2 hours, I just started writing. I figured out the process of getting a book proposal done. I got an agent that I absolutely love, and she guided me through a lot of the process. And by the end of those 6 months, I had a book proposal, which, for those of you who don't know, in the nonfiction world, luckily you don't have to write a full book like fiction authors do. It's still a large document. It's 60 pages with a lot of references and 2 full chapters, but it's not the full book. And then after that, they kind of take over, shop it around to publishers, and yeah.
Okay, I want to dive more into that process.
Yeah.
Like, for somebody who is thinking, I have something I really want to share with the world, I have an idea, like just take us, how do you start? So you've kind of shed some information there. You've shared some information. You've said that you don't have to write the whole book, but then just the process of, getting in touch, finding that agent, getting connected with a publisher. Can you take us through some of the nuts and bolts there?
Yeah. So the first step is really writing this book proposal. We'll just focus on nonfiction. And there is a wonderful book. I can't remember the author, but it is called How to Write a Book Proposal. And so I went to the library. I got that book, learned how to do it as best as I could. And then you finish writing that proposal. So that includes, what is the book about? Who is the market? Who's going to read it? What are similar books and how they performed? And then, like I mentioned, 1 or 2 sample chapters that you've written about the book. Once you have that, you need to pitch to agents. And so a lot of different ways you could do that. So my favorite author, we talked about this, is Cal Newport. I think he is has changed my life in a lot of ways with his book Deep Work and many others. And so he talks about his agent a lot, and he's been with her for, I think, 20 years now, Lori Ackemeyer. And I was thinking about this and thinking about her and the kind of the other books she's represented. I'm like, I must have her. And she was really my top choice. And I reached out to her early when I was off with Aria. And you just write a 1 paragraph. This is what the book is about. This is who I am. Please let me know if you're interested. And then agents will respond. And she was really excited about it. So I got really lucky that that was my top choice and we connected. So after that, the next step is you send them your book proposal and then they take a look at that. And then if they like that, then you sign with them. So you sign a contract with the agency and agent that you're going to work together. And then the fees are set out in that. And it's generally 15%. They'll take 15% of everything. Once you have that done, then they take over a lot of the rest of the process. It is them to reach out to publishers. They have a huge network. They know a lot of people in the industry. They know who would be interested in it. And so first you polish the book proposal. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. That's a big process. So she helped me a lot with that.
Okay.
And then she shopped it around to publishers. And I'll tell you, I haven't had as much rejection in my life time as that period of time. I would say 20 plus rejections, and sometimes getting so close with like in-person meetings, getting to the board meeting level, and then a no. And so it's a rough process, but I eventually, after I'd say 8 or 9 months, we found the right publisher who were really excited to work with us. And, that was fantastic.
But that process of going through publishers, getting rejection, my understanding is that this can be the norm, right? In this space?
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah. It's a very difficult process, and including getting an agent too. Like getting an agent is also sometimes a very difficult process.
Now, for you, for finding Lori, was she the first agent that you reached out to, or did you reach out to others before who said no? What happened there?
She was the first one.
Oh,
so just got lucky there. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And what I was so blown away by, I know we talked about this before I read the book, but Cal Newport wrote a blurb for your book, which is on the back cover. That blew me away because, Hasan, I have to say, in the last 2 to 3 years, of all the books that I've read, and I try to read about 2 a month now, but Deep Work by Cal Newport is like right up there in my top 3. Like in terms of the ones that has had real impact on me and material that you can extract and put to use in your life and that will actually move the needle forward. I was just like, wow. I thought it was just so brilliantly written. And his other book, Slow Productivity, is my next one that I'm going to be very shortly. Yeah, I'm going to like that. Okay. Okay. So you also mentioned that the agent will take 15%. Then I imagine after that. And first of all, I just want to preface this by saying, I don't think people are here to write a book. You're not expecting that to be your only stream of income. Like you're wanting to like leave an imprint for the world. You're wanting to share something really valuable with people who are going to touch your work. I think that's probably why you did this, but just so people can understand financially, what does it look like? Like of the book sales, what do authors generally get to keep who go through this process?
Yeah, so I'll say it's generally not a lucrative process at all. It's really something that, I wanted to get out there, to get done. And, the advance can be a little bit. I would say my advance worked out to probably about minimum wage for the time and effort I put into writing the book. But then a little bit depends on what happens after. And so a lot of books, most books, 90% don't reach 1,000 copies sold. And so, it's not going to sell out your advance. So when you get your advance from the publisher, you set a date when you're going to submit it and you get half up front, half at the end. And then that money you have to earn back. And so from the book sales, you get a certain amount from each book until you get called earning out your advance. And then after that, then you can get paid directly. Okay. Most authors will not earn out their advance. So for your listeners to know, it's usually not a lucrative process, but things can happen that can help. So one of the first things that happened with my book, it's kind of an exciting process because it keeps evolving, is we got an audiobook deal. And so there was a company that
Congratulations.
loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I really was most happy about that because there's such a huge audience for audiobooks of people who never pick up paper books and paperbacks. And it has reached so many more people because I got an audiobook deal. And so that adds a little bit. Then you can start to get international editions. And so I was very fortunate pretty early on. We got our first international edition in German. And so that's actually coming out in May. And I just learned in the last month that we have another one in Polish. So it's going to be translated into Polish. And so each of those gives you a little bit of an advance plus royalties down the road. And then really exciting, I just heard we're going to have our first international audiobook, which is going to be in German.
Oh,
and so that's happening soon. And so these kind of things kind of evolve over time as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that. I'm really happy to hear all this.
Thank you.
Hasan, let's move on to your TED Talk. I watched your TED Talk. I thought it was really well done, very interesting. What was that experience like? How did it happen? And what did you learn? What did you learn from it?
Yeah. So one of the things I've wanted to do is, I'm a researcher, academically, and have published, quite a number of papers. And what I found, maybe in academia in general, is I wasn't getting the reach that I wanted to. Really wanted to just get my message, whatever that is, to a much larger audience. And that was one of the incentives to write the book, is to write something for the general public that will reach so many more people. And it's done that. So I'm happy. And one of the things that I love doing is watching TEDx talks. And I knew that if I did a talk, that would reach a whole different set of people and hopefully discover the book as well. And it was quite challenging for me because I'm fairly introverted and, I prefer to be sitting by myself and writing or interacting with little kids. Those are my two preferred options. But something I really wanted to do. And so a lot of different universities will organize TEDx talks. So I'm a UFT alum through Sick Kids, and I wanted to do that one. So applied. They pick 4 faculty members and 4 students every year. So an 8-person TEDx event. It's quite big. It's 500 people. What's really nice about it is that it's recorded, high quality, edited. And so I wanted to get this message to more people. And so did that. And like writing, it was a really great experience because you get so much feedback. Like I was in Toronto like twice a week doing the whole talk, getting a lot of feedback from different people, slowly improving it. You're not allowed to have any notes. There's no prompts or anything. The whole thing has to be memorized. So doing it that many times really made it a fun and comfortable talk. And I think much more interesting for me to give rather than the standard academic PowerPoints as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I got very lucky. Got picked as an editor's pick by TEDx. And so got released on their main page, an email list, and it's already got 30,000 views in the first 2 months.
We will share a link to your TED Talk in the show notes too. Now, you mentioned you like to watch TEDx Talks. Do you have a favorite that you kind of keep going back to, something that taught you a lot?
Yeah, I'd say Angela Duckworth's talk on grit and her book about that. It's wonderful. It's right up there for me with Deep Work, and another book that if you haven't read, I really want you to. It's called Essentialism.
I've heard of that one. Angela Duckworth, you said?
Duckworth, D-U-C-K.
Duckworth, okay. I will take note of all that. Now, this is a big, really important question for me to ask you, but I feel like I'm following you, all the stuff that you're posting, and I really feel like you are enjoying the journey. And I feel like the work that you're doing, the research you're doing on toddlers and helping other people live a better life, to me, Hasan, it seems like it's allowed you to dive even deeper into your work in a very, very meaningful way. And I was talking to my wife about this recently, but like I'm still working full time. There may be a time when I go down to like 3-4 days a week. I don't know when that's going to be, but we spend so much time at work, and I think it's really important that we make those hours count and we're working with purpose. So like what has your journey done for you in that respect? I'd love for you to share.
Yeah. So one of the most important things that I learned a while back, maybe just a few years ago, was about the Eisenhower matrix. And for those people who don't know, it's just a 2x2 table. X-axis is urgent and non-urgent. And the y-axis is important or not important. Very simple. So you don't have to worry about the top left, which is urgent and important. Those things will get done. And you don't have to worry about the not urgent, not important. Those things won't get done. And that's totally fine. what you have to worry about is urgent, not important, which is things like emails and things that just come up day to day. And we spend a lot of time on, and it kind of takes away our lives and our time. And then the other thing, which is important, non-urgent, which for me is writing the book, which for me is doing the TEDx talk, for exercising, things like that, things that don't really have a time bound goal to them, but are important for you for your long-term development and what you want to contribute. So once I realized that, I really tried to prioritize that. And so I'm very lucky. I work in ER. I have a pretty flexible schedule, and I have a lot of weekday daytime off. And so for me, weekday mornings really work. And so I always do 2 hours of deep work in the morning, and I never schedule anything before 11. So anytime anyone wants to meet with me, I give them times after 11. Yeah. And my wife knows not to call me before 11, and it's only emergencies only. And for a pediatric ER doctor, it's like, there's no emergencies really. So
yeah.
I block that time off every day for myself, unless I have a day shift, but most days. And I try to get 2 hours of deep work in. And I use a program called FocusMate. And if you haven't used that, it's wonderful. So 2 hours of FocusMate every single day.
Can you tell us a bit about that? Because I have come across FocusMate. I haven't used it yet, but I've heard people talk about it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so FocusMate is a way to implement deep work. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, deep work is just doing undistracted work, really without cell phones, without anything else. And so those 2 hours that I have in the morning, my cell phone is in a different room. It's on only for wife calls if needed, but it's in a different room in a drawer. And I'm sitting here and I sign on to FocusMate. And so FocusMate is this online community of people who want to do deep work. And you sign up for either 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or 90 minutes. And you can start anytime you want. And you're matched up with someone just like me and you are doing on this video chat. And you spend 30 seconds introducing yourself and what you're going to be working on. And so you have this accountability partner. Then you stay on video, go on mute, and you work on that thing. And if you really want, you can share a screen to show the other person that you're really just doing that. And if you really want, like me, you can do a website blocker. And so it blocks out for me LinkedIn, Twitter, things I like to go to. And so I'm on FocusMate. I have a website blocker, and then I'm just working on what I need to do. And for me, that a lot of times is writing. This is how I wrote the book, is doing this every day.
Holy smoke. So you feel like this website, FocusMate, it really works?
I think it works for a lot of people. I mean, I don't think it works for some people because they feel like it's a little bit awkward or they're just not used to it. But for a lot of people, and there's, I think, many thousands of people on there now, it works extremely well. And I will say I could not have written this book without FocusMate.
Wow. You've done so many different things. Very, very interesting, your journey. Do you have any idea of what your 5-year plus plan is?
Yeah, so I made a 10-year plan when I was just about to turn 40, and that was really to become a better writer. And I really wanted to make this a long-term journey for me. And so the first step was the book. I continued to write a lot of articles. Working with different editors is making me a better writer. I'm taking formal courses, actually at U of T, continuing education as well. And so that's really hopefully going to lead to more writing, more longer form writing, maybe another book as well. What I also realized though, when I did the TEDx talk, is I really do love this type of public speaking to a general audience, non-academic. And so one of my other goals that I've added to this is to become a better public speaker. And so I have built out that on my website. I am reaching out to people to do more of that. And eventually we'll maybe join Toastmasters. I'm a little nervous about that, but yeah, that's in the back of my mind.
Oh, I love that. Now, your articles that you write, where do you publish those, or where can people find those?
Yeah, kind of all over. So my website has them all collected in one place. Okay. It's hasanmerali.com. Has all my media articles there. I write about this topic a lot, about wellness lessons we can learn from children, but also general public health lessons. My last article was published in CNN. I've also published in the Boston Globe, NBC, several other media outlets.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hasan, any closing thoughts on the topic we've talked about today, or anything at all?
Yeah, just for people listening, I absolutely love learning from children, and I think there's so much more to uncover. You know, I focus on little kids, but there's so much more from older kids, teenagers. And we were talking about how we're connected on social media. So if there are other people who want to connect on social media, on LinkedIn and X is where I'm most active, and can share some of the lessons that you're learning with me as well. I always love to hear from people, love to learn more things from children, and that kind of inspires some of my posts and some of my writing as well.
For sure. And a last question, what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned?
I think the most valuable lesson from my daughter is about laughter. It's we've talked about it a little bit, but I don't think I've laughed my entire life combined as much as I have in these last 4 years with her. And I think that just adds so much more value and happiness to my life that I'm very lucky to have her. And it's been a wonderful journey. And as her laughter goes down, as we know it does, as she gets older, I really want to focus on maintaining that for the two of us.
That's beautiful. I can tell from your work and the book you wrote, Hasan, that the two of you and Arya, are very close, and it's wonderful to see. I just want to say congratulations on all your success. I hope you continue to achieve that success and continue to share everything you're learning with everybody, because I think there's a big impact to be had. And thank you, Hasan, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was great to be here, and thanks for sharing everything that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Take care, okay?
You too.
Sometimes I think the answer is right in front of us. For those of us who are fortunate enough to have the chance to raise children, to have that opportunity to pass on our values to these little human beings who are going to one day have their own mark in the world, I think it's a truly beautiful thing. And that quote that we talked about living life through the eyes of your children, to me, what that means is to observe your children and to learn from them, because I can tell you they are true experts at living in the moment. Think about it. Our kids are not dwelling on the past, and they are not overly concerned about what's going to happen in the future, but they are masters at making the most of what's in front of them. And I think that if we embrace the same habits, that's where our maximum impact is going to be had. Guys, thank you as always for joining me. If you're getting value out of Beyond MD, I would be truly grateful if you can pass it on to a few people in your network. And we will see you in a few weeks' time. Until then, stay well, stay savvy.